All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Raul Cepeda. On behalf of Barcodes and Wasp, I'd like to thank you all for attending our webinar on how asset tracking can increase your ROI for your company. We know your time's precious, and we hope you can gain some valuable insights today on our asset tracking systems. We do have a Q&A feature available on this webinar, so please feel free to send any questions, and we will address them towards the end as time allows. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Randy McAfee, the sales manager at WASP. Randy?
Great. Thank you, Raul. I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank everyone for spending 20 or 30 minutes with us today, learning about implementing an automated asset tracking solution and how that's going to increase return on investment for your company. Here's a quick look at the topics that we want to discuss today. And as you can tell, we'll start out with assets versus inventory. Then we'll get into why is an asset tracking solution important to your business. Finally, we'll compare spreadsheets and paper-based systems and where you're going to achieve return on investment by automating that. And at the end, we'll talk about how we can help. So first and foremost, whenever people come to me and they want a solution to keep track of their assets, they usually come to me and say, hey, I need something to keep track of my inventory. My first question is, what kind of inventory are you tracking? Because for most people, in organizations, they've got somebody that's in charge of keeping track of inventory for their organization. But if they say that it's goods that the company owns, like PCs, furniture, tools, vehicles, of course, those are assets that you own for your company. And if that's what you're tracking, we have a solution for you called AssetCloud. Now, in addition, many people do need to keep track of things in their warehouse, let's say, goods that they're selling or consuming. That, in reality, is true inventory, and we do have a solution for that as well. We're going to focus on asset tracking today, but we just want to make sure terminology-wise that we're talking about the right thing. So let's get into why is an asset tracking system important for your business or organization? I want to highlight a few things. I'll give you some examples. If you don't know what you have, you'll buy it twice. I had a company that came to me once and they had just purchased 20 laptops for new employees that were starting within the business, not knowing that someone else had purchased those 20 laptops 2 weeks ago. Since they didn't have an automated system to keep track of that stuff, they now had overbought on things that they didn't need. In addition, if you can't find what you have, it might go to waste. I see this all the time with companies that track things like tools. If you've got an expensive tool, let's say a jackhammer that's in the back of your warehouse and you don't know where it is, you now may not be able to go out to a job to perform that function. You now may end up having to buy that tool again because you didn't keep track of where it was. And then finally, if you don't maintain your assets through the life cycle, you might be overpaying on things like taxes and insurance for goods that shouldn't even be in your system any longer. So what else does having an effective asset management solution give you? Well, first off, tracking assets requires time. And here's a quick look at some of the weekly, monthly, and annual time expenses that companies incur just in managing their assets. I mean, it could be simple things like recording the assets that you have, keeping track of depreciation on your assets, checking for errors, etc. One biggie is reports. The time spent creating reports and reporting back to your superiors on what you have takes a lot of time. Now, on an annual basis, you're going to be required to do annual reports. These may be for the IRS. These may be for your own internal folks, or it may be an external audit that you're experiencing. But for folks that have these problems, having an automated solution is going to allow you to overcome these. So what are some of the benefits of an intelligent management system for tracking your fixed assets? First off, you might be able to reduce or even reverse some costs of tracking your fixed assets. In addition, if you have a centralized, secure, cloud-based solution, you now have a one-stop spot to go to look up anything you own, where it's located, and who has it. This gives you that up-to-the-minute insight. You can now see where everything is and what it's worth to your organization. All of this coupled together gives you the ability to save your company money and time. Let's jump into spreadsheets and paper-based systems. Most of the time when someone comes to me, they're experiencing pain. The pain is because they're in charge of keeping track of their assets within their organization. They're trying to do it on a spreadsheet. They're trying to do it with paper, and it's just gotten out of hand. As a matter of fact, according to a Deloitte survey, 54% of organizations are still using a paper format to track their assets. Unbelievable. I know we all love our spreadsheets, but in this day and age, there's still 54% of organizations that are using a spreadsheet to track these things. And let's face it, the larger your organization, the more complex this becomes, the more time consuming it becomes, the more errors you're going to make, and now you've got a risk of being non-compliant with any regulations that you face. So if we look at the cost of tracking assets manually, number one, people cost. I've had so many companies come to me and they say, I'm the person responsible for keeping track of everything we own. Or myself and my team are the ones that need to keep track of everything in our organization. And it takes hours upon hours to do this. If you look at a 2015 study on spreadsheets, they say 94% of them have errors. So now, not only are you trying to keep track of something manually or with a spreadsheet, but more than likely, there's going to be errors in your data. And the impact of this to you and your company could be in the thousands, or it could be in the millions. There are other costs. Inaccuracies, ghost assets. I love this term, ghost assets. These are things that you have on your books that you say you own, but they may be lost. They may be stolen. They may be broken and not usable, but you're still tracking them on your books. Or, as I mentioned earlier, you may have duplicated assets. You may have things that you're buying simply because you don't know what you have. And so you're buying more just to cover yourself. All of this leads to depreciation, miscalculations, depreciating things that you don't own, and paying additional taxes and insurance on things that you no longer need or own. Now, there are a few other costs. Let's get into that. Maintenance cost. This is a big pain point for a lot of people. Not only do I need to track what I own, I may need to keep track of the maintenance on those items to see if it's still worth keeping. A couple of examples. I've got a company that keeps track of repairs on all of their PCs. And when they reach a point where a PC has been repaired 3 times or more for the same problem, they consider it a lemon, they ditch it, and they move to a new PC. In addition, you're going to have things like compliance and audits that you need to report to. If you're a government organization, you're really going to be held to a standard that a lot of other organizations are not. And I will say we have many federal, state, and local governments and education systems that are required to keep track of their assets and report on those. So where is your return on investment? Let's take a quick look and see some of the ways that this system can at least save you money. In many cases, automating your asset tracking could even pay for itself. First off, I talked about manual labor, the people cost. And if any of you folks out there are the person that's in charge of keeping track of the assets for your organization, this could be huge. I know at least your time involved, you would appreciate eliminating and saving some of that time if you could. Then errors. You may be making errors on things. With an automated solution, it's going to allow you to eliminate those errors. And then if you look at a study by IT Business Edge, they indicate that by implementing even just a passive RFID tracking system, you can reduce inaccuracies from 10 to 15% down to 0.5%. So we're still talking about spreadsheets, manual tracking. As much as I love Excel, and I really do, even with those 94% errors that we mentioned earlier, all of us use it for something, it's still probably not the best system for keeping track of your fixed assets. By automating that system, you can now reduce staffing hours up to 75%. You can boost your accuracy up to 99%. And save thousands of dollars in time and money during audits. These are three huge benefits that you can obtain by automating your solution. And a couple of things that I really love about automating the solution is the responsiveness. It's going to really allow you to save time and money by doing a couple of things. You're no longer wasting time managing assets that don't exist. That's those ghost assets we talked about. You're no longer wasting money replacing assets that you already have because you don't know about it. And you're not overpaying on insurance and taxes on depreciating assets. Three huge things that organizations love about automating this solution. So let's really kind of dive into how we can help solve this problem, solve this pain point that you might be experiencing. What I want to do is just take a couple of minutes and look at the solution that WASP has created called AssetCloud. And this is offered through Barcodes Inc. for you to utilize. As you notice on the left-hand side, these are some of the primary uses for an automated asset tracking system. Some of them I think we all know about. Others I think might surprise you. IT assets, probably far and above the #1 thing that our customers are using this system to track. Tools and equipment. As I mentioned earlier, you may be a manufacturing company that's got expensive tools, or you may be a medical company that has expensive medical devices that you need to keep track of, and you want to know who's using them, or you want to be able to check them out to someone on a daily basis and know when they're due back. Evidence tracking. We have police departments that are using the product to keep track of evidence. And if you really think about it, that's something that you really don't want to lose. I mean, that could affect somebody's case and affect their life, really. Samples. You've got organizations. I had one company that was a carpet manufacturer, and they would give samples to all of their resellers. They would be able to keep track of all of these and see what they've given out to their resellers and make sure that they've got the right products, right samples in their hands. Then, of course, you've got things like facilities management and maintenance, compliance on reporting. And one other biggie, if you're a government or education organization, you may be given funds to purchase certain items, and you need to report back on what you purchased with those funds. Or let's say grants. With the funding management that we provide, you're going to now be able to report on that and keep track of everything you've purchased with any funding or grants that you were given. So let's dive in a little deeper. So why would you want to implement AssetCloud? One thing I love about it, of course, it's going to help you manage your assets. But the two things, one surprising, one not so surprising, now you can manage your information. And what I mean by that is you've got a full reporting capability and you've got the ability to look up anything at any time from anywhere. But really, it's the accountability. You'll see here in a minute, when employees start seeing that you're tracking your assets on an automated fashion, things like loss and damage and breakage tend to slow down. Let's jump into that. As I mentioned, with AssetCloud, you now have ultimate visibility. You can see what you own, who's using it, where it's located, and its value to your organization at any point in time. In addition, audits. So many people have come to me and said that doing their audits, after they've implemented the solution, conducting audits has become much, much easier. I just simply walk into a room, scan all of the barcodes, asset tags that are on my items, and move to the next room. There's no writing things down or typing it into a spreadsheet. It's that easy. I've mentioned earlier, stopping loss. Just the fact that your employees now are seeing that you're tracking things in an automated fashion, your loss is going to, lost goods are going to decrease. It won't be eliminated entirely, but when it does happen, you're going to be able to find those things in a much quicker manner and be able to report on it that way. And then, of course, flexibility. I do want to jump into this a little bit. We do have two versions of the product available. We have an on-premise version and a true cloud-based version. With the on-premise version, you will host it yourself on your network, on your server. It's a one-time purchase, and you do the hosting. With our cloud version, most of our customers prefer this because now it's a simple annual subscription. We host it through Amazon Web Services, and you don't have to worry about storage, hosting, or any of the problems that come along with that. But we have customers that tend to prefer one or the other. And if that's you, we do have both products available. So what can AssetCloud deliver for you? Here are some of the key features. And of course, I encourage you to read the list here. I really want to highlight 2 or 3 that our customers find the most valuable. I mentioned it earlier, but number 1 is performing either that annual or quarterly audit. You could even do it on a periodic basis where you happen to be in a room, so you just scan everything in there to record an audit at that time. But one thing that people tell us is that this feature alone helps them save time and improves the reporting that they can give to their boss, their company, or a government organization and complete those audits and get them back quickly and accurately. Next is checking things out to employees. A couple of examples. I've worked with companies that check laptops out to employees on the weekend. Now, by simply scanning a barcode, picking who it's checked out to, setting a due date, you now know anytime something has not been returned, who it was checked out to, and then you can contact that person to make sure that it gets returned. The same thing with tools. We work with a lot of companies that are keeping track of tools for things like manufacturing or construction. And now I can check those tools out to those employees and make sure that they come back in the proper manner. And this one's kind of big with tools, because a lot of times you see companies like that will lose tools at a construction site simply because people don't feel like they need to take care of it until they see you tracking it in an automated fashion. And then finally is really just reporting. The amount of reporting capability that this solution delivers is unbelievable. We give you most pre-formatted reports from the get-go. However, you now have the ability to create your own reports, or you can even schedule reports to be sent out to the appropriate people at the appropriate time on an automated fashion. So the reporting capability really blows people away with this product. And if I were to say one other thing, I mean, we've got some customers highlighted here that are using the solution. What I love most about the product is, due to the flexibility of it, it really can fit into any type or size of organization, whether it's a small business, whether it's a government organization, whether it's a large multinational corporation. It's got that scalability and flexibility to fit you into the right solution with the right product at the right time. What we want to do is look at a few tips to help you get that return on investment and optimize your asset management solution. First and foremost, find the best management system for your needs. And your Barcodes Inc. rep can really help you drill down and determine just how robust or how simple of an asset management solution that you're going to need for your organization. Now, the tool does give you the ability to barcode your assets and your locations within your organization, so that using a simple mobile barcode scanner to go around and collect that data becomes easy. In addition, I mentioned this earlier, you now have an easy way to check things out, not loan things out to your employees, and get those items returned in a quick manner. And again, by doing this, you ensure accountability not only to yourself, but within your employees, within your organization. It's going to make it much easier for them. All right, you guys, I really want to thank you for your time today. We'll do a quick summary, and then we'll turn it over to questions and chat. But as I mentioned, the product that Wasp Barcode and Barcodes Inc. can bring to you is going to allow you to truly automate your asset tracking, which is going to reduce that amount of manual labor that you are suffering through. In addition, you're going to reduce unnecessary expenses for things like duplicated assets. You're going to be able to keep track of maintenance and depreciation on everything that you own. So by automating your asset tracking, it's going to bring you these benefits. Then we do offer the solution in a SaaS version, which is a cloud-based version, or an on-premise version, giving you that flexibility for any size or type of customer. And I do want to point out, finally, that contact your Barcodes Inc. rep and ask them to set up a demo on the software. Or we also offer a 30-day trial of the software, so you can get it in your hands, put your data in it, play with it, and make sure it's going to fit what you need it to do. And then finally, through Barcodes Inc., you're going to be able to get your best pricing and your best quote in the industry. And what I'll do next is, if you don't know who your Barcodes Inc. rep is, we've got a contact for you on the next page here.
Yep. Hey, really quick, Randy, before we get into that, we got a couple questions.
Perfect. Yeah, let's jump ahead to questions.
Yeah, let's go with the first one here. It says, where to start if we have to establish asset tracking? What are the best practices to print the barcode label? And then it goes on. So I guess maybe let's start with that one. What are the best practices to print the barcode label?
That's a great question, and there's really two ways to go about it. I could add a third way, but here's the decision that you'll want to make. You can either first put all of your assets into the database and then print out your labels from there. We do offer the barcode labels within the solution as well. So it's going to allow you to print out your own barcode labels. And the great thing about that is Barcodes Inc. can sell you the right printer with the right solution of label Let's face it, when you're putting an asset tag, you don't want it to be a paper label that somebody can peel off or write on. So we have some excellent formulations that are permanent. But the solution will allow you to print out your own labels, or other customers do the reverse. They may already have asset tags on their items, and so they start from there, where they'll scan the barcode in and then put in all the relevant information about that item and be able to track it that way. So it's a decision you'll want to make one way or the other, whether you want to label everything first and put it in the database, or put it in the database and label it as you go.
All right, the second question I have, it's a second part to that question, and someone else also asked, is do you support barcodes and RFID?
Actually, RFID, barcodes, absolutely. And we've been in the barcode business for over 30 years, and that's been our core business. RFID has been tested, and we do expect that to come out within the next 3 months. So it's not there yet, but it will be a solution we will be offering.
Yeah, and I'll add to that piece. So the WASP specific solution is focused on barcodes, but Barcodes Inc. Does have some RFID enabled software to support asset tracking. So if you're interested in that, the contact information will be on the next slide, and you could reach out to me about RFID specific applications. Next question I have here is, do you recommend to print on the label to be a QR or a barcode? I assume they mean 1D or 2D technology.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. Realistically, a 1D barcode is your best solution for an asset tag. Most of the time with an asset tag, it's just going to be an asset number that the database uses to recognize that product. You can use QR codes, and oftentimes if you have a small tight space that you want to put a smaller barcode label in, you could use a QR or a 2D type barcode for that. But I would say 99% of the time, a 1D standard barcode is going to be your best bet.
Okay. Next question I have here is there a solution for the use of NFC? We currently scan, but it takes forever.
Realistically, we don't have an NFC solution. I'm not sure what you mean by scanning taking forever. Unless maybe you're scanning with something like a tablet or a camera. If you're using a true barcode scanner, it should be instantaneous. But an NFC solution could get into something like an RFID solution like Raul was talking about. But as far as the scanning goes, a true barcode should be instantaneous if you're using the right device.
Yeah, Mike. Mike, you asked that question. If you want to reach out to me and discuss your application a little bit further, I'm happy to help there. But we do see a lot of clients that have issues scanning with consumer devices because it uses the camera versus an actual scan engine. And so we always recommend the use of enterprise type devices. But there'll be some questions there, or you can ask me offline those questions. And then another question, last question here we have is, what are the advantages and disadvantages to have the software on the cloud or the server?
No, that's another great question. And sometimes it gets into preference. Sometimes it gets into company mandates. Oftentimes I'll be working with a government or a military organization, and they're not allowed to do cloud-based software, so they have to host it themselves. Ultimately, what it gets into is managing the data. So if you want to manage the data and host it yourself, in addition, there's a one-time purchase when you do that. With the cloud purchase, it's an annual subscription. So there's multiple facets to look at there. Do I want to pay for it all up front and host it myself, or do I prefer the ease and convenience of being able to host it through the cloud and pay on an annual subscription? In addition, with the cloud version, you can use the software from anywhere. you get a login, and if you're sitting at home on your sofa at night and you forgot to run a report, you're watching TV, you can just run that report and send it to your boss real quick. With the on-premise version, you'll need to make sure that you have some sort of VPN connection or something so that you can get back to that server to be able to do that.
All right. Another question here popped up. Is your software compatible with Oracle ERP?
Ultimately, it can be. We do have REST APIs that allow you to communicate with any other software. So it would take some configuration on your part to be able to communicate. It's not set up to do that out of the box, but with our APIs, if you have the expertise to connect it, then yes, you can communicate to Oracle or any other system that you prefer.
Okay. And Mike, I know you kind of had a follow-up question here. We are so spread out, want to walk into a room and have it manually pick everything up. That is probably a little bit more focused on RFID technology. So my contact information should be on everybody's screen at this point. If you want to send me a separate note, we can talk a little bit further about what you're trying to accomplish there. All right, I think that's all the questions we have. Again, on behalf of Barcodes and Wasp, I'd like to thank you all for taking the time to join our webinar today on asset tracking. If you have any further questions, would like to talk to one of our asset tracking experts, get a free consultation, or schedule a one-on-one demo for Wasp, please feel free to reach out to me via the contact information on the screen. And again, I thank you again, and I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day.